Next from Chicago, we talk one-on-one with Dawn Geras, who runs the Save Abandoned Babies Foundation. We hear about her effort to keep mothers of unwanted babies from discarding or killing their child, and how those who gave birth to an unwanted child can give it up and remain anonymous. This runs about 20 minutes.
Dawn Geras, president of the Save the Abandoned Babies Foundation. Thanks for joining us again on the Illinois Channel.
Thank you for having me. It's a wonderful opportunity for us to help get the message out about the baby safe haven law.
It's been a couple of years since we talked, and so I never want to presume that people, we're all inundated with new information constantly. We sometimes forget about some of the information we've heard in the past. Give us an overview again of your organization. Why did it, you started it, I believe. Why did you start it, and where do you stand now as far as the service that you're providing?
The safe haven law for newborns was passed 10 years ago. The law simply states that a parent can turn in an unharmed baby, 30 days old or younger, to staff at any hospital, police, or fire station. They can walk away with no questions asked. The tragedy is, even though the law has now been on the books for 10 years, most people don't know that it does exist.
So, let's say we have a high school student who is pregnant and hiding that from her parent. Now, she doesn't go through having an abortion, but tragically, sometimes what happens is they literally will throw the baby after it's born into a dumpster.
Yes, and not just that, but we've had babies discovered dug up in the backyards by dogs. Typically, they've hidden the pregnancy and they don't know what to do. They're frightened. They don't trust telling their parents, a teacher, maybe even a best friend. And then all of a sudden, here's a baby, and they panic and they don't know what to do. So they throw the baby away. The reality is they're probably going to get caught and go to jail for murder or illegal abandonment if the baby does survive. Instead, if they were only to know that they can remain anonymous and just hand over the baby to staff at a safe haven, no questions asked, they can know that they've taken responsible, loving action. The baby will ultimately be adopted, and this person can go on with the rest of their life.
So, from a practical standpoint, they can remain anonymous to the extent that they've hidden their pregnancy from people around them for whatever reasons. Those people would not know, their parents, maybe even their boyfriend or whomever. But when you say they can hand the baby over, I mean, the old movies sometimes from the 1930s, you'll see someone ringing the doorbell and running away, and the baby's in the basket on the stoop. How literally would they make the transfer of, here's a baby I just had, and if they go up to a police station or wherever they're going, will those people, the police officers or the people at a hospital, know that you're not supposed to be asking this person personal information, that under the law they have the right to remain anonymous?
Yes, the staff have been trained. We encourage, the idea is to hand your baby over to someone. If you leave the baby outside, and right now it's freezing cold in the middle of winter, if you leave the baby outside and ring a doorbell, maybe the doorbell isn't heard, and even in a short period of time that baby would be found frozen on a stoop outside. So you hand your baby over. The staff that take the baby are supposed to offer the relinquishing parent some information pertaining to what happens now that they've delivered, some safe information for them. They may, if they would like to, give us some medical information regarding the baby, but nothing is required other than to hand the baby over to someone.
If the mother needs some medical attention, if she just gave birth some hours before, can she be treated and remain anonymous, or does that not happen? If she gets treated, is the anonymity lost?
No, the anonymity is still there, and sometimes the moms have accepted medical help. And sometimes when they come into a safe haven, they've wanted to or asked to even see a social worker. And sometimes it turns out that maybe a parenting plan and help and supportive services were all that were needed for this mom to be able to keep the baby herself. But that's not what we're trying to do. We're just trying to have mom be safe and baby be safe.
And one can just imagine, too, the emotional and mental damage that would be done to the mother who may give up a baby when she's 15, or not give it up, but I mean, let's say she basically kills the baby by leaving it or discarding it in a panic as a immature individual. You know, what kind of damage that would do to her emotionally and mentally as she gets older and reflects back on the fact that she killed her child.
Versus her knowing that the baby has now been adopted and is being loved and cherished, nurtured, and provided for. And it's interesting that you mentioned the teenager. Our demographics have shown that it's not necessarily an age problem. We've had women up to the age of 44 that have had a baby that have turned them in. That there really isn't a socioeconomic profile. It happens from age 14 to 44 and all races and socioeconomic backgrounds. The reality is people have sex, and sometimes it ends up with an unwanted, unexpected, unplanned for pregnancy. The safe haven law allows an option where everybody can live and take a responsible action and everybody will be okay.
Do you have any numbers on how many babies have been handed over to authorities since the law was passed?
Yes, I work very closely with the Department of Children and Family Services, so my statistics are totally accurate. We have had 76 babies turned in under the law. Unfortunately, the other side of that is I know of a minimum of 67 babies that were still illegally discarded, and half of those babies, 33 of those babies, are dead today. And I say approximately because I have no idea how many other babies have never been found because they've been so successfully discarded.
When I meant to ask, those numbers, are those for Illinois, or to what extent does your organization, are you just an Illinois organization, or are you nationwide?
Sort of both. Those numbers are just for the state of Illinois. There is now also a National Safe Haven Alliance, of which I work closely with, and every state in the union now does have a safe haven law. They vary a little bit. In Illinois, the law is now 30 days old or younger for the baby to be turned in. Initially, the law was only 3 days. Some states are still 3 days. We're trying to encourage other states to amend their laws so there's more continuity throughout the country, but that will come in time.
I would guess, wouldn't that most mothers typically hand their baby in shortly after birth?
Typically they do, but the idea of having up to 30 days, if a mom feels that she thinks she wants to keep the baby, she's got that option open. And maybe if she keeps the baby for a couple of days, but then again, if it gets to be like 3 or 4 days and she finds out she can't do this, there is still an option for her.
Now, what if, what does the law say if she hands over the baby to, again, what is it?
Staff at hospital, police, or fire station.
If she hands the baby over and a week later she relents and says, I want my baby back, does she have an option?
Yes, she's got an option. She would talk to somebody at the Department of Children and Family Services and explain where the baby had been left so that we can track down that child. She would be getting counseling and supportive services from the department so that they could verify that whatever instability existed that made her feel she couldn't keep the baby is stable and secure enough that she could be reunited with the baby. She has 60 days to do that. The reality is we've not had that happen. I think most of the parents have decided that they have no option other than using the safe haven law. Other than, let me backtrack on that, there are some that have come in, a small percentage, and with being in a calm, nurturing, non-threatening environment where they can sit down and know they're not going to be in trouble and that they may remain anonymous if they choose to. It also means they don't have to remain anonymous. If they want to talk to a social worker, if they want to make traditional adoption plans, those options are always there. So occasionally, given those kind of supportive services, the mom has been able to keep the baby.
I am, you know, I think a lot of us, I'm conjuring up in my mind's eye someone giving birth, maybe in their bedroom at home. Again, they're trying to keep it unknown to others. But can they go, while they're still pregnant, I mean, as they're about to give birth, can they go to the hospital and give birth and then give the baby up after it's born? And
yes.
So that they're in a safe environment rather than having their pregnancy come to fruition in a bedroom or some other unsterile
or being
place?
forced to have a baby out in the alley
right.
and then turn the baby in. Yes, they can. It's a little bit more complicated because they're going to have to insist on remaining anonymous. You know, staff are going to ask, well, do you have insurance and this sort of thing. But if they were to say, I want my baby born in a safe, nurturing place, but I don't want to keep my baby, that can be worked out too.
Now, Dawn, I know one of the things that's new is you just had a public service announcement produced. What do you hope to achieve with this PSA, and why is it now being produced?
The PSA, the public service announcement, is now available also on our website, saveabandonedbabies.org. Anybody can download it and use it. We'd like to maybe even have schools think creatively. Maybe they could play this for their student body. If we are able to educate students before they need the law, they'll know about the law later in life should they need it. And if I might add about schools, a couple of years ago we amended the Illinois school code, the health education, where schools are now supposed to be required by law to teach about the safe haven law in health ed. Unfortunately, we believe most schools are not in compliance. So maybe if they just download the public service announcement that's now available, it's only 30 seconds, they can be in compliance and they can teach their student body about the safe haven law.
And of course, these days you can put this, if it's not already, up on YouTube, and anyone can download that via their iPhone or a tablet, as well as on any other computer device.
You're right. It's on YouTube, and the PSA is also on the website.
Are you also on Facebook at this time?
Yes. And we are getting ready to launch a contest on Facebook for students in high school senior year, a book scholarship. You'll have to go to our Facebook for the details, but it will be a $500 prize to high school students towards their college books once they graduate.
And I don't imagine, have you ever done any debriefing of anyone who's given up their baby? I mean, I would imagine they're anonymous, so you haven't had that opportunity. But why do people give their babies up?
For every reason, and more reasons that we can even begin to imagine. I have talked to a couple of the parents here and there that have relinquished the baby. And the circumstances have all been different. I think the only common factor is they were really torn and they were looking to do something responsible and loving for their baby. And I think what they needed to hear from me was that I understood that I could respect them, and actually I admired the courage that it took them to trust the law and that they were a good person.
Is there a phone number that's available?
Yes, we've got a crisis number that's manned 24 hours, and actually the number is across the country. It's 1-888-510-2229. 2229 is also the word baby. So it's 888-510-2229. 510-BABY.
All right, well, Dawn Geras, we appreciate you joining us and sharing the information, and hopefully we can save some lives with it.
Well, we like to say if people would just talk about the law, tell a friend, you might save a life.
All right, thanks again.
Thank you.
You're watching the Illinois Channel, an independent nonprofit corporation formed to provide gavel-to-gavel coverage of Illinois state government and other public affairs events taking place across Illinois.